everyone. Welcome to Pursuing Polaris, NorthStar SailGP Team's podcast, hosted by yours truly, me, Grinder, and the podcast host, Tom Ramshaw. We're very lucky today to have Jareese Finch on the podcast for the first time. Grinder professional.
Oh, thanks for having me on the pod, Tommy. Pretty excited.
Yeah, have you listened to the pod much?
Yeah, it's on one of the top 10 lists of my pod listening, so...
Good, and I'm glad to hear.
Great to be here for it.
So you know what we're here for. This podcast is just trying to get,
want the details.
The fans to get to know the details of who all the people, all the sailors, all the people behind the scenes are, and get to know them. So I met you at the inception of the team.
Yep.
In season 3, because we're totally different backgrounds. I'm from Olympic sailing, and you're a seasoned professional.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you learned to sail.
So
what's up?
Growing up, who is Jareese Finch? Still trying to figure that out at 39 years old, but I'll give you what I know so far. So I grew up in Antigua, down in the Caribbean. Started sailing at around 4 years old in the Optimist, as a lot of us did. Got the old bathtub out with the old raggedy sails and kind of learned the basics of sailing. Stayed in the Opti till I was about 7, and then switched over to the Laser, and we had a really tight sailing group down in Antigua. So, it wasn't the normal yacht club environment. We were on a beach, kind of got there. It was a very disciplined but very tough way to learn how to sail, because we were out there competing really, really hard from a young age, and
it's pretty windy there too. It's not very kid friendly.
No, not really. I wouldn't say it's the most conducive to kids, but that's what we thought the norm was. So it was pretty good.
Makes you pretty tough, I guess.
Especially when you only had 3 good boats and the other 8 were pretty marginal. So you had to get there early.
That's classic learn to sail.
Yeah, you had to fight for your good boat, and if you got the good boat, you'd probably go out there and smoke everyone on the day. But if you didn't, you had to learn how to climb up the fleet from behind. So it instilled a lot of really good sailing sort of fundamentals in my background. And our coach, Carl James, has worked with a lot of us coming out of Antigua. He was tough on us. He told us, it's never going to be a cakewalk, but the harder you work, the better your results will be. And it's kind of the same in all sailing, I find. And so after I was in the Opti, I went straight into the Laser, and big step up.
It's a big step.
You're going from doing 4 or 5 knots to maybe getting some double digits out there. You go take a Laser out into a 3-meter sea state. It changes your life for a little bit when you're a kid. Never experienced anything like that. So I got to do that, and that's sort of where my small boat sailing stopped. I sailed the Laser till I was 13, and then after that, that's when I moved to Canada for high school, and I took a little hiatus from from sailing, and then I started doing more conventional sports and stuff like that. And it was one of those things. Sailing was always in the background. Whenever I went back to Antigua for the winter, we go out with the group and go sail the Lasers again. The old rivalries were still there, We still went out there and went for it. And then as after I finished college and everything like that, that's when I kind of got that itch to get back into sailing again. And when I was 23, I moved up to Newport, Rhode Island, and that's where it all started kicking off, to say.
So I guess, like, growing up in Canada, sailing the same kind of pathway, Optis, Lasers.
Yeah.
There's some other boats in there that clubs have, but and then you see in Canada, we see the Olympic sailors, and you don't see much pro sailing. But when you're in Antigua, there's a lot of events, especially in the winter, or a few events where there's a lot of pro sailors come in who their job is a lot of super yachts, a lot so you would have seen that as a kid.
Yeah, so Antigua Race Week,
and that was
growing up.
Cool.
Yeah, Antigua Race Week growing up was one of the biggest maxi yacht regattas in its heyday in the, I'd say late 80s, early 90s. That's where you saw all the really cool big maxis when they first came out. Like there was Boomerang, Sayonara, all these really cool ocean boats as well, that as a kid you see these things out there. And so the way they used to finish Antigua Race Week is they'd race halfway around the island, and then they'd finish it the other way, coming back down. So the finish was this big spinnaker run coming right down to the harbor, and we all go up to this lookout point called Shirley Heights, and you'd see 100 boats come ripping downwind. And I think from seeing that as a young kid, that I always knew that sailing was going to be something in my blood and something that I wanted to pursue later on in life, you know. And just you see like these boats that are, when you're that age, they just seem so uncomprehendable to be able to sail. You're like,
Yeah, I can imagine.
that looks impossible.
Yeah.
You know, and then everyone out there, they had the huge, massive maxi grinders that, you know, are 130, 140 kgs walking around, you know, looking like big old Greek gods. And you're like, man, I didn't even know where these people came from.
Yeah.
Huge. So yeah, seeing that growing up, I was like, man, this is pretty nuts.
So let's before you got into pro sailing, you're Canadian, but you grew up a lot in Antigua.
Yeah.
You moved to Canada for high school.
Yeah.
Much like a lot of sailors, played a lot of other sports. You focus what on basketball and golf were your two main sports?
For my two main sports, but I kind of did everything as well. Like I played rugby, I ran track, cross country. I think, you know, hopefully my teachers don't hear this. I tried to do as many sports as I could to, you know, stay out of school as much as I found.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
I think all of us kind of figured out the cheat code that if you can skip, well, if you can do a lot of sports, that means you get X amount of more days off. So I kind of did that and I really enjoyed it. And you know what, I think.
So you were in Victoria?
That's
where
Victoria,
you lived?
Victoria, British Columbia. And I was Oak Bay High, which we're quite a cool environment at our school because we're one of the only schools in British Columbia that had a really big sports program, but also a really big drama program. So there was a full theater program at that school as well, which is something quite different in high school that you don't see a lot, you know, like, so I think we had a cool meshing between athletes
and the arts,
and
the
the
artistic
arts.
people.
So, and then quickly I learned that I'm definitely an athlete, not an artist. Tried
the drama class, didn't work out.
You know, that part wasn't hard. It was more of like the chance that I never got past finger painting.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, stick
Fair
figures were still a big
This
thing.
is how you draw people with the stick.
Exactly. I mean,
Nice.
I kind of stuck there. So, you know, I realized I wasn't going to be the, you know, Picasso or Leonardo da Vinci. I decided just to stick to stick figures.
Stick with the grinding.
Stick with the grind.
So you, and then you went to college in the U.S.?
Went to college in the U.S. down in North Carolina.
And then
after college, that's when
you
sailing. I think after college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a while there, as, you know, a lot of 21-year-olds are. So I was thinking, I was like, what do I want to do? There's all these cool mega yachts in Antigua that, you know, they have helicopters on them and all sorts of cool things. Do I want to go work on one of those? And I did that. Actually, I did that for 2 months. I worked on a mega yacht in Italy and I absolutely hated it. I realized.
So what kind of things are you doing on a mega
You're
yacht?
a chamois technician.
So you're just
cleaning and
scrubbing
polishing.
dry.
Yep. Wake up from 8 to 8. You are cleaning and polishing, and it takes a special kind of breed of person to enjoy doing that every day. And I realized that I was not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I went and after that I went back to Antigua again and started doing some local club racing. And then I realized that it was coming over to the summer period. So all of the boats that were down in the Caribbean were then going to be going up to either Europe or to Rhode Island. And I had a friend who was running these two classic race boats called the W boats, 76-foot boats. They had pedestals on them. Pretty cool. And they're going to go up, and they had like 15 regattas planned over the summer. And they're like, hey, do you want to come do this? And I said, sure, yeah, let's go do it. So, and that was honestly, that was what kickstarted me into like professional sailing. And it kind of happened overnight in some ways.
So we talk to younger sailors sometimes from Canada who, you know, ask us what to do to get into pro sailing. And there's a lot of people who are just out of university or maybe still in university and they want to sail for their job, but it's hard to find a job where you're getting paid to sail. So what would be your recommendation to kids now?
The recommendation is learn as many skills.
Same scenario you just described.
So that's a very tricky one. The industry has changed quite a lot over the years. So I think now the biggest thing is to have multiple skill sets coming in and to not be afraid to do apprenticeship programs with some of these
unpaid
teams,
stuff,
unpaid, coming in, showing the teams that you can work really hard, showing them that you're valuable and showing them that you're needed. I think that's the biggest thing.
So what are some skills that you think are really helpful for getting noticed?
Yeah, so getting noticed, anything to do with hydraulics is always a big thing. Anything to do with mechanics, understanding engines, then anything to do with rope is also a big thing. Rigging, being a rigging specialist, understanding standing rigging, composite rigging, huge. I think if you have a small grasp of that or are willing to spend some time to learn it, those 3 skill sets can kind of take you pretty far in this industry. So coming in and having...
You'd still be racing on the boat, but it's helpful to have racers who are good at these other skills.
So let's put it this way. When we race on the big maxi boats, everyone is a specialist in some area. So like, you might have a shore team that can do all this, but there's also your stuff that you want to be able to take care of.
Yeah.
It's all quite hands-on. So, unlike something like SailGP where we have such a huge workforce behind us and also the boats go through all these different departments, these departments instead are in our own sort of grasp on these teams.
On the sailing team.
The sailing team. So you want to understand how everything works in the boat and you need to be able to fix it on the boat while it's happening because you don't want to ever have to pull out of a race, right?
While racing sometimes.
So, exactly. So if you can splice, if you can understand what's going on with hydraulics, electronic systems, if you know how to fix winches, big assets to have because, it's quite hard with the sailing that's happening now because turning into like more of a foiling generation, all those guys you basically have to learn how to fix carbon at that point, right?
Yeah, true.
So that's a different skill set. And then still on the bigger boats, it's still a lot more mechanical, right? So you have to understand how all that goes.
Yeah. And then even on smaller boats, like small keel boats, there's these kind of skills are still helpful, especially around the rope and knowing about sail shape and sail design can be helpful.
For sure. I think if you're, sail making, I think is another side of the apprenticeship program that is also really good to go into. Because a lot of the big sail companies now, especially, Doyle's and North, they're all under one conglomerate now. So basically, there's a lot of opportunities for young apprentices to go learn sail making, which is a great skill to have. Yeah. And it's, I think it's one of those lost arts in sailing that there's a lot of people that really love it. And then there's a lot of people that just see it as just part of the industry and don't really appreciate sort of the art and the technique and like the being able to sew really well.
Yeah.
Using these huge machines and, you've seen the sails.
Or even if you're a trimmer on a boat, you'd want to understand how it's made and how it's designed to, accomplish certain shapes with certain controls and.
Well, exactly. And you want to know how it's all built as well, how many layers you have in the sails, It's there's a lot going on. So I think, not to make this all like a huge broad topic of like how to go into an apprenticeship for this or how to get into sort of the big boat sailing, but I think the biggest thing is trying to figure out exactly what you want to do. Do you want to race? Do you want to be on a boat? Do you want to become more of a shoreside technician? Do you want to go into like the sailing side? Or do you want to go into like shore-based hydraulics, mechanical side of it? It's a hard thing to sort of choose right away, but I think like just finding or thinking of an opportunity, in which you want to find that goal, right? Yeah. It's all goal-based.
Well, I think in Canada with the young Canadians, a lot of it is how do I get onto the SailGP team? Yeah. But when you're coming out of university and you've done a little bit of maybe Olympic class sailing and whatnot, it's not just a jump to SailGP. What's the next step? How do you get onto like proper racing programs and stuff? So I find it it's like a gap in Canada that we don't have necessarily. So what does the individual do to make it next?
But I think it's a hard thing as well because, unfortunately we don't have as much Grand Prix racing in Canada as there is in other places of the world.
So you really got to branch out.
So you got to branch out. You have to be willing to, go fly to a destination or a place that has these races. And you also just have to go walk the docks. Yeah. I mean, I got 90% of my work when I was younger by just going out there and asking and saying, hey, do you guys need someone to help you today? And you get turned down 9 out of 10 times, but then you get that one opportunity where someone sees that you just keep on coming back every day. And sailing's still one of these industries where it's not, yes, it's referral based, but a lot of it is, it's all word of mouth and who from face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of it has happened.
Well, so that's why a lot of it starts with some unpaid gigs where you just show up. So what'd you do through your 20s then? You were racing on maxis. What kind of boats have you sailed? What's your favorite through that period?
Favorite. Yeah, so I was racing all kinds of boats. Everything from the J classes, which are, the beautiful 1930s 140 foot classic yachts.
What were you doing on those?
Classic. I was one of the bowmen on there.
Okay, so they need big bow guys. You need moving a lot of sail.
Moving a lot of sails, and you have to be. It's you're sailing these boats that are 180 tons. They're pushing water like it's nothing. Yeah, and you need sort of like just to say, like, I started more of my sailing career on the bow. Like, I was a bowman. I did that my whole life, and then so I knew the areas around there quite well. And then on those boats, you also have spinnaker poles, which are, that's a whole other part of sailing that everyone forgot. So, you go from being on a 100-foot canning keel maxi to going to something like, Velshita, which is, 130-foot, 180-ton classic sailboat, which has a massive spinnaker pole, and you're racing at 6 other boats. It's scary.
Yeah, there's a lot of loads in those.
Like the runner would go up to 20 ton or something like that. It's making sounds that you didn't think were possible. You're looking up, the rig's like a spaghetti stick.
So who gets on the end of the pole to spike it?
Yeah, I did. I was lucky enough I didn't have to do that.
That would be scary.
It looked absolutely death-defyingly scary.
Yeah. So that wasn't your favorite, or that was a favorite?
No, so that definitely was one of my favorites, because there's such cool racing, and it's something that, like, it kind of brings back that classical side of sailing. And I don't know,
how many people on that boat?
40 people on the boat.
That's crazy.
And then so then I was also doing like the TP52s. Again, that's some of the best racing out there. Like the Super Series is great. And then also like the IRC 52s, which are a little bit more offshore based. So that was awesome. And then, the 100-footers, like 100-foot offshore canning keel boats were pretty much, I think, some of the coolest boats out there.
Yeah.
Along with like the Volvo 70s.
What are some of the cool offshore races you've done?
I think probably one of my favorites were the transatlantic races, because especially the ones that are going east to west, because you start off in a place like the Canary Islands or something like that. A day in there, you're absolutely sending it going downwind. Pretty big sea state, but you're in shorts and t-shirt, Yeah,
that's great.
You go the opposite way. If you're doing the races, say from New York or Newport across, you're in the Gulf Stream for a couple of days, and then you are almost up in the icebergs next to Newfoundland sometimes, depending on where the stream's running. So that can be pretty cold. Did one of those one time where I lost my boot on the first day, which sucked. So
how'd you do that?
Just doing
kicked it overboard?
Doing a sail change, and it ripped off my foot. And
so what, you were barefoot for the rest of the race?
No, I had shoes as well, but I wrapped a garbage bag around my foot, so that worked quite well.
I guess you got to be pretty creative when you got to be ready to improvise.
One of two options, so that was pretty good. But yeah, I think that was really cool. And then another boat. And some other boats was, I'd say, the 200-foot catch Hataris, which is like a massive carbon catch, and the thing does 20 knots in every direction.
Really?
And it's absolutely insane. From engineering perspective, the boat is, it doesn't make sense.
So on a boat that size, there's definitely there's no pedestals. It's all
no pedestals. Everything is there's 4 generators.
Button and cocktail kind of sailing, or
no. Furthest thing from it, it's serious sailing. You're racing the boat really hard. It is scary. Like, I think, So that thing is, it's pretty to give the sheer volume of something like that. Like I was saying on like the J class, the max runner load was something like 19, 20 ton. I think the stay sail sheet had 20 ton on it.
Jesus.
you know?
Yeah, that's heavy.
So you think, and a lot of this, you know, we sailed in 25 knots a few times.
Yeah.
Stuff starts exploding. You didn't think could ever break.
So when you mentioned that it's scary with these loads and stuff, I guess we all get asked about SailGPs. It's scary, the speeds, all that. How do you compare the feeling of danger with SailGP to some of these massive yachts with big loads and 40 guys on board?
I think it's all relative, right? So in any environment, as long as you understand what you're doing, I think it makes sense. The F50 is a boat that, you know, we know pretty well now.
Yeah.
So now it doesn't feel the same as it did, say, in season 3 when we're sailing on the 18-meter wings and we're doing, you know, 90 kph. We're kind of just like, this is so foreign. Now it feels a little
more
bit
natural.
A little bit more normal. The big thing about being on the big boats is that there's so many different positions that you actually don't know what. Sometimes you don't even see some people for an entire day until you hit the dock.
Yeah, so you just have to trust them.
There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background that, you know, you can't focus on because you have your own area to take care of.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between sort of sailing on a team with 6 people versus sailing on a team with 40. Is everyone is really good specialists in their areas, and that's really what you need to make sure that it works well.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess so you did a lot of this big yachts, maxis, and that takes you into when Canada started a SailGP team.
Yeah.
Where did, like, how did you hear about it, and then what was your process of getting on the team?
Yeah, so I heard about it from one of my good friends from Antigua, Louis. He had mentioned Canada was starting a team up, and then it was kind of all over the social media for a while there that there's going to be a Canadian team, and I wasn't exactly sure like who was going to be on it, if this thing was for real, you know, like
it felt almost too good to be true at the beginning.
I wasn't sure about it. So like, you know, I kind of tiptoed around a little bit. I sent in, I think sent in my CV to one of the first guy who was kind of in charge of the team and never got a reply. So I was like, oh, that's weird. And then, then after I talked to some people who were involved in the team, and they're like, oh, send it in, and sent in my CV, and they immediately wrote back and said, hey, we're going to have like, you know, a couple guys coming out to Portugal. Would you want to come out there? And, you know, we're going to go sail a GC32 for a couple of days. And I was like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. Went out there, you know, met a good portion of the team at that point.
Yeah.
And then Tim and I were, you know, kind of going for the grinder's position. So yeah, we went out there and luckily looked over at us and said, you guys are both hired.
Nice.
So it was pretty cool. You know, after 2 days of sailing, we were in. So that was great. I think they kind of saw that both of us had a good experience, like a good amount of experience grinding, and also we knew how boats work.
All the work that goes into making sure the boat's ready to sail as well.
Yeah, and you know how it was in season 3. You know, we put some long hours in.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because definitely you could tell the difference of the people who started off in Olympic sailing and then who had come from a maxi-based program, because, you know, we're pretty much used to just working until it's all done, where it's like you guys get done sailing, it's like, I'll sit down, have a snack.
Put the boat away.
You know, maybe wash our gear off, but probably just leaving a pile outside the change room door.
That's funny. That's your impression of Olympic sailing. No, I well, meeting you and that first 3 weeks we had in Bermuda and learning how you work, and it was cool. Your attention to detail that I didn't. I mean, in Olympic sailing, you do think about these things, but it's on your own boat, so only you hold yourself liable for it.
Yeah.
Where it's, I got a new impression from it and learning from you when it's a whole team depending on you to have your area done right. you want to have it perfect.
Like this is what I was told when I was.
You taught me a lot of perfectionism that
thank
I
you.
didn't.
Still trying to push it.
Yeah.
Leaps and bounds
from
day one.
Your level is very good. So I remember learning that from you as a pro sailor versus me as an Olympic sailor, and it was I mean, it's different. I think being on a team versus an individual
For
sailing.
sure, yeah. And I think is what we were told a lot when I was, very much the low man on the totem pole, is that if anyone's ever waiting for something that you should have done, then there's probably a good chance it's the last day we'll see you. So that was always instilled in my head. So like I was like, all right, I'm gonna be the first one at the boat. I'm gonna double check, triple check, and make sure everything that was close to being in my area or an area associated with me was gonna be done. And done to perfection. And I think it was a lot of scare tactics when we were younger kids, because we had all the guys who had just finished doing, the version 5 cups and the sort of the bigger America's Cup programs. So they'd had it's same with them, they were used to having the sort of younger generation, which they were bringing up underneath them. And that's how you learned, right?
Just getting pushed really hard by these older guys. Yeah.
And just basically they wanted to
So you took me and pushed me.
Yeah, exactly. but no, well, it's hard as well when you come into this, because your direction in your own area, you have to understand, but you also have to create your own job to make it even better, right? Because if you can figure out more than you need to do, then you're the next step ahead, right? And that's the same thing, we always say that we went from saying we want 1% gains to now that it's the 0.1% gains. So finding that other gain that you need to make your job, your team, your life better around the team, so much easier. And it's so much less stress the next day, like when you're about to go out sailing, get everything done the night before. You just know you have to put on your gear and get out there.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. I guess one thing I wanted to ask is what we trickled over it a bit was since you played a lot of sports growing up, you played golf in college.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of kids these days, they get so specialized, whether it's in sailing or any other sport, they get specialized in that sport really early?
Yeah.
You saw value in playing lots of sports, I suppose, and I kind of agree with that.
I think with sports though, it's all about.
Tell me a bit more about your golf career.
Golf, yeah. I mean, golf was something I actually picked up quite later on in life. I didn't really start playing until I was 14-ish, 13-ish. Yeah,
that's early for most people, but for competitive people, I guess that's late. Yeah.
I mean, there was guys that I'd been playing against who started with us in the Opties at 4.
Yeah.
So it was one of those sports. I played a lot of cricket in Antigua growing up. So I feel like I kind of had good hand-eye coordination. It just looked like, I don't know. I saw golf as one of these sports, and it's very similar to sailing in that the conditions change every day, and you're not just playing against the course, you're playing against yourself in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah.
So that was just I think it's the hardest sport I've ever done at a high level. I'll put it that way, because it's very tricky. And the guys that are, on the PGA Tour and stuff like that, you just have to commend them, because it's a different skill set and it's a different mental game than I think a lot of other professional athletes have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got pretty good at golf, and I pursued it to the point of collegiate career, and then after that kind of fell away from golf a little bit. I moved back to Antigua, where I wasn't really going to be playing in tournaments, and I wanted to I kind of got burnt out of it in a way.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of sports will do that. You kind of lose the passion into it. So I think I came to a point where I knew I was going to be a professional, but I knew that it's always going to be a lifelong skill set to have, to say.
So you still play?
Still play. Still get out there.
For fun.
Still go out there and play for fun. And
nice.
Once in a while we'll go out there and play in some charity tournaments.
Do you have to get these special long clubs made? For those who don't know, Jareese is 6'6", 100 kilos.
I don't actually.
I don't know how that works.
Long arms.
Long arms, so normal clubs.
Normal clubs, just stiffer shafts. So It's like hockey, you know, like that,
stiffer shaft for heavier person.
stiffer shaft for more torque. So I have a lot more club head speed.
So what's your furthest drive?
Furthest drive, I think it's just under 400 yards. It's pretty deep, but
A 50 knot tailwind?
nope, no, but it was up in the Okanagan. So, I mean, elevation helps.
Yeah, true.
Elevation and really hard ground.
I'm not much of a golfer. It's one of those sports that I play like once a year.
But
it's enjoyable
like
hang out with the group of people you're with. But after that, it's not the addiction that a lot of
Happy
people
Gilmore
have.
wasn't a golfer either, but he was a hockey player, and you're a hockey player,
True.
so I'm pretty sure there's still hope.
Yeah, and I mean, when I was a kid, there was a driving range near my house, and Happy Gilmore had come out, and so we ran at a lot of balls at the driving range, me and my friend, and we got yelled at a couple times because it's not good golf etiquette, but the movie was just out, so I think
pretty tricky to hit a ball like that as well, to be honest.
The thing is, coming from hockey, I was good at it somehow.
Yeah.
It was like some big drives, and it's funny, when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, I was driving further than I can drive now.
Yeah, just pumping them out there.
I don't know what I was doing different back then, but now when I swing as hard as I can, it doesn't seem to go any further. It's just
You're the next day
slow.
Back hurts.
Anyway, I don't put much thought into it, but
hey, that's the key to it. Apparently, having a clear mind.
Yeah, it helps with sailing.
Zenning it out, exactly. I'm sure you knew that from doing all your Olympic sailing. That if you can go out there with a clear mind, you're good to go. And it's the same in golf.
Your mood and being in the right headspace helps. It's hard to get the best out of yourself or the team when that's not right. So
it's all got to align. It's a perfect alignment. Perfect storm of perfect things need to happen to have a perfect day. But I don't know if there is a perfect day.
Well, it's a pretty perfect day out here today. For those who are watching on the YouTube, we're sitting here on a little rock wall in the marina in Geneva, and it's sunshine all day. Not a cloud in the sky.
Got a beautiful breeze. Hopefully this sticks around for the weekend. Is this the most epic spot you've had for the pod so far, or what?
I don't know. We do some in hotel rooms. We do some on the tech site. Our first ones we did in a park in Dubai, which was kind of
pretty cool.
A unique place. But yeah, I would say this is my favorite.
It's pretty scenic, isn't it? You don't get this very often. Should be an interesting weekend here, though.
Yeah. So being that we're both grinders, I'm G2, you're G1. We share the handles.
Power to the handles.
At the front of the boat. Tell me a bit about your philosophy of grinding on the F50.
Yeah. I think the F50 is pretty unique in the fact of we're fighting a lot of G forces on these boats. And, comparably to sort of say like the cup boats, we're actually crossing from side to side. So the role is A, very physical, and B, you have to be super athletic on these boats now, you know? So it comes down to a really good symphony, especially between, you and I when we're grinding. You have to know when to prioritize jib functions. I have to know when to, beg for help from you.
Yeah.
So it's pretty unique position. It really is a team thing in the fact that we are a grinding unit, and it's, we help each other to the maximum of our capabilities.
Yeah.
Which is it's pretty cool. Like, if you're out there to lunch, I'm pretty much left on my own, and it doesn't work as well.
Well, it's amazing how hard, even when you're by yourself grinding, the pedestal's like so sticky.
Yeah.
Because there's those points where you have really bad leverage on the handles.
Just don't have enough torque.
But when you have the
right?
person across from you on the same set of handles, they're at their most powerful point when you're at your weakest point. So it spins so smooth. It requires that coordination. So these days you're also you do work both SailGP and you sail on a 52.
Yep.
How do you compare those two different types of grinding from the F50 to the 52?
Very, very different. Obviously, because on the F50 we're direct drive and direct feedback right away. Where on the 52 there's hydraulic functions. There's also, you're going through there's runners, so you're going through like a 3-to-2 cascade. Everything is a lot different.
So you have a series of buttons on the 52.
Yeah.
Where
So
you're
comparably,
linking in with different winches.
exactly. Comparably, the 52, or say like the big 72-foot boats, there's a lot more coordination that happens between the front and the back pedestals. So like the pedestal on the 52, I have 7 buttons. So on the F50, I have no buttons.
Yeah,
you just have the buttons.
Yeah. Well, my buttons don't do anything to the
actual
pedestal.
So,
so it's all.
So that's the thing, is being direct drive on the F50. It's a lot more. I would say that the grind is a lot more grittier. So it's a lot more sort of effort once to get it going, and then after that, it's more of a consistent pace.
Yeah.
Where on the 52 or the 72, it's maneuver based. So there isn't a lot of straight line.
Hoist drops,
and then if you're doing runners, hydraulics, main sheet, it's all that's when it can kind of get a little bit more complex, which is super fun. So especially on the boats where you're linking 5 pedestals together or something like that, it's quite unique. That takes it back to the old America's Cup days, when the grinders were actually just having to do quite a lot of functional work.
Yeah.
Compared to now, where it's a little bit more direct drive work and a lot more hydraulic based work.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. And that the F50 is, I think you are a lot more technically based, or like everything's a lot more technique based on these boats, because you're kind of more understanding a lot of what's going on in the boat, and also providing that driving force.
Yeah.
So it's very different. There's nothing you can compare it to, and it is one of those boats that at the end of the day you walk off of, and it's a big sense of accomplishment, especially if you've had a big day out there. I mean, I know how it feels when you're just like, whew, wow, that just happened.
We've had some good days of sailing where you get off and your adrenaline's pumping.
You're cheesing.
Yeah, and it's so fun, and
Well, you kind of go through that really good rush especially after like having a big weekend out there. You get on the airplane and you're almost a little sad, aren't you? You're like, oh man, it's another couple of weeks where I get to do this.
Yeah.
So I think there's nothing like these boats in the world, and this racing. It's so unique, and it's the fact that we're doing almost 100 kilometers with 12 boats together.
It's pretty wild.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, there's no other. I mean, there's America's Cup, there's SailGP, and then there's nothing really close to reaching the speeds and racing quality as SailGP.
It's wild.
Well, on that note, we'll close it off there. Thanks so much for joining the pod, and
good times. Thanks for having me on here.
Of course.
Thank you, Lake Geneva. This was a treat.